You felt it before. That moment when someone's words cut deeper than they should have. When a stranger's opinion lingered for days. When rejection from someone who barely knew you somehow rewrote your entire sense of self. You gave them a power they never asked for. A throne in your mind they didn't even know existed. And now you're here, wondering why you keep handing out keys to rooms they'll never deserve to enter. The pattern is always the same. Someone dismisses you, and suddenly you're performing for their ghost. Crafting responses in the shower, winning arguments that already ended. You're shadowboxing with phantoms while they've already forgotten your name. This is the first trap. You're not fighting them anymore. You're fighting the version of them you've created, the one that lives rent-free in your consciousness, feeding on your need to be understood. But here's what no one tells you. Their indifference was never about you. It was about the mirror they couldn't face. People reject what reminds them of their own unhealed wounds. They attack what threatens their carefully constructed illusions. You were just the screen they projected onto, the canvas for their own self-hatred. And you believed their projection was your truth. You've been living in other people's realities, measuring your worth by metrics you didn't create. Success defined by someone else's father. Beauty defined by someone else's trauma. Intelligence defined by someone else's insecurity. You're an actor in plays you never auditioned for, reading scripts written by people who can't even direct their own lives. If you're still watching, you're already ahead of most. Because most people never question why they're bleeding from wounds they didn't create. The second trap runs deeper. You don't just absorb their judgments, you become addicted to them. Every criticism becomes evidence you collect against yourself. Every rejection, proof of what you always suspected. You're not just accepting their reality, you're actively seeking it out. Choosing relationships that confirm your worst fears. Pursuing people who reflect back your own self-abandonment. You've become the prosecutor in your own trial, and you're very good at your job. There's a moment when emotional fusion happens, when you stop knowing where you end and their expectations begin. Your anger isn't yours, it's theirs, internalized. Your shame isn't yours, it's theirs, swallowed whole. You're a walking museum of other people's emotions, curating a collection of feelings that were never meant for you. Carl Jung saw this clearly. He understood that most people live as psychological marionettes, their strings pulled by forces they refuse to acknowledge. He called it the undifferentiated state, when you haven't separated your authentic self from the collective soup of others' projections, expectations, and emotional debris. You're not living your life. You're living an unconscious reaction to everyone else's. Jung discovered something profound. The things that trigger us most violently in others are often the disowned parts of ourselves. When someone's judgment devastates you, it's because it touches something you already believe. When their rejection destroys you, it's because it confirms a story you've been telling yourself since childhood. They're not creating your pain, they're revealing where it already lived. Most people never think about this part. They'd rather blame the trigger than examine why they're so flammable. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming who you truly are, not who others need you to be. But here's the paradox. To become invulnerable to others, you must first become vulnerable to yourself. You must face what Jung called the shadow, all the parts of yourself you've hidden, denied, or projected onto others. The shadow isn't just your darkness, it's also your abandoned light, the confidence you buried because someone called it arrogance, the creativity you suppressed because someone called it impractical, the love you withheld because someone called it weakness. Every time you adjusted yourself to avoid someone's judgment, You threw another piece of yourself into the shadow, and now you wonder why you feel empty. Jung understood that emotional detachment isn't about building walls. It's about reclaiming projections. When you stop needing others to validate your existence, you stop being affected by their denial of it. When you stop seeking your worth in their eyes, you stop being destroyed by their blindness. This isn't apathy, it's clarity. The difference between a mirror and a window. Think about water. It takes the shape of whatever contains it. Pour it into a cup, it becomes the cup. Pour it into a vase, it becomes the vase. This is how most people live, constantly reshaping themselves to fit whatever container they're poured into. But ice holds its own form. It doesn't conform. It doesn't bend. It exists in its own structure, regardless of what tries to shape it. Jung's individuation is the process of freezing, of crystallizing into your own form, not out of coldness, but out of clarity, not from hatred, but from self-possession. You stop being water that takes any shape others give it. You become ice that maintains its own structure. If you're still watching, you understand something most people spend lifetimes avoiding, that the only opinion that can truly destroy you is your own. Here's what Jung knew that modern psychology often misses. The goal isn't to stop feeling. It's to stop drowning in feelings that aren't yours. When you achieve what he called conscious awareness, you still feel everything, but you feel it from a place of choice, not compulsion. Someone's anger might wash over you, but it doesn't become you. Their disappointment might touch you, but it doesn't define you. The ancient alchemists Jung studied had a phrase, solve et coagula, dissolve and coagulate. First, you must dissolve the false self, the one built from others' expectations. Then, you coagulate into your true form. Most people get stuck in the dissolution. They feel the old identity crumbling and panic. They grab onto the nearest opinion, the closest validation, anything to avoid the void. But the void is where your true self waits. Coming up next, we go deeper. But it's not easy. Because once you see this, you can't unsee it. There's a moment in every individuation journey that Jung called the midnight of the soul. It's when you realize how much of your life has been a performance, how many of your choices were actually reactions, how much of your personality is just scar tissue. This realization can break you, or it can birth you. The choice is always yours. Think about a puppet cutting its own strings. For a moment, it collapses. Without the external force holding it up, it falls. This is the terror most people feel when they start detaching from others' opinions, the free fall of having no external structure. But then something remarkable happens. The puppet realizes it was never a puppet at all. It had legs the whole time. It just never thought to use them. You want to know the secret to making nothing affect you? Stop trying to make nothing affect you. The very effort creates resistance. The very goal implies you're still at war. Jung knew that true individuation isn't about becoming invulnerable. It's about becoming authentic. When you're fully yourself, others' opinions become information, not identity. Their emotions become weather you observe, not climates you inhabit. The final mirror is this. Every person who ever hurt you was just you, in disguise. Another unconscious soul, desperate for validation, projecting their pain onto the nearest screen. When you see this, something shifts. Compassion replaces resentment. Understanding replaces the need to be understood. You stop taking their projections personally because you recognize the projection booth. You realize everyone is fighting the same battle, trying to exist in a world that constantly tells them they're not enough. Some people handle this by shrinking, others by attacking. But you can choose to simply be, to exist without apology, to feel without drowning, to connect without merging, to love without losing yourself. Here's what no one tells you about emotional sovereignty. It's the loneliest freedom you'll ever find. When you stop needing others' validation, you also stop receiving their sedation. When you stop drinking their poison, you also lose their medicine. You'll stand alone in your truth while others huddle in their shared delusions. But in that aloneness, you'll find something they'll never have: yourself. The question isn't whether you're ready for this kind of freedom. The question is whether you're tired enough of the alternative, whether you're exhausted enough from carrying others' emotions, whether you're done being a supporting actor in your own life. Jung spent his entire life mapping the journey to wholeness. He died knowing most people would never take it, not because they couldn't, but because they wouldn't. Because the familiar prison feels safer than the unknown freedom. Because being half alive but accepted feels better than being fully alive, but alone. But you're still here, still watching. Which means some part of you knows what most people never realize, that the only chains that truly bind you are the ones you refuse to see. That the only opinions that can destroy you are the ones you've swallowed. That the only person who can truly affect you is you. So who are you when no one's watching? When the audience leaves and the lights go down? When there's no one left to perform for? No one left to please? No one left to prove wrong? That's the only question that matters, and only you can answer it. If this message resonated with you, consider subscribing to the channel. I appreciate your support.